I stared at my laptop screen numb. The termination letter sat in my inbox like a digital slap across the face. 2 years of sleepless nights, 200 million in revenue, and this was my reward. Just yesterday, they had celebrated my app at the company gala. Today, I was escorted out by security. What they did not know was that buried deep in my code was a kill switch only I could control. As I reached for my phone, my hand trembled. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button. I had always been that guy who could see the architecture of code like a physical blueprint. While other developers at previous companies would spend days debugging, I could usually spot the issue within minutes. It was both a blessing and a curse. By my mid-30s, I had developed exceptional coding skills, but grown completely disillusioned with corporate culture. I had watched too many brilliant ideas get buried under bureaucracy or stolen by managers who could not write a single line of code. That all changed when JumpSphere came calling. They were a small tech startup with big ambitions, and their charismatic CEO, Thomas Wright, personally recruited me during a tech conference in Austin. "Grover," he said, placing his hand on my shoulder as we stood near the coffee station. "I have followed your work for years. The banking security system you designed was pure genius. We need minds like yours at JumpSphere. Complete creative freedom, significant equity. Build what you want, how you want." It sounded too good to be true, but Thomas had that rare quality of making you believe in possibilities. His eyes lit up when talking about technology, unlike the soulless executives I had worked with before. I accepted his offer the following week. The JumpSphere office buzzed with the energy only startups possess. I quickly connected with Jasmine Park, a brilliant UI divided by UX designer, whose aesthetic sensibilities perfectly complemented my technical approach. Franklin Reeves, the CFO, with a slick Wall Street background, initially seemed supportive of my ideas, always nodding approvingly during presentations. Alexander Hayes, the CTO, took me under his wing, though I occasionally caught glimpses of something in his eyes when I received praise from Thomas. I dismissed it as my own paranoia. 3 months into my time at JumpSphere, the idea struck me while struggling with my own workflow. What if an app could learn how users actually worked, adapting its interface and functionality to individual patterns, not just basic customization, but deep machine learning that would evolve as you used it? When I first presented the concept, during our innovation meeting, most of the leadership team looked skeptical. Franklin kept checking his watch, and Alexander questioned whether the AI components would be too resource-intensive. Only Thomas instantly recognized its potential. "This is exactly why I brought you here, Grover," he announced, cutting off the others. "This could revolutionize productivity software. Whatever resources you need, they are yours." For the next several months, my apartment transformed into a secondary development lab. I would work regular hours at JumpSphere, then return home to code until 3 or 4 in the morning, surrounded by empty energy drink cans and takeout containers. My girlfriend Sophia would find me asleep at my desk most mornings. "You are killing yourself for this company," she would say, massaging my shoulders. "Is it worth missing your sister's graduation? Your nephew's birthday?" I thought it was. Each sacrifice felt meaningful as the application took shape. I was building something revolutionary, something that would change how people worked. The first prototype demonstration nearly crashed from my own nervous energy. I had gathered the executive team in the conference room, and as Thomas, Franklin, Alexander, and the board members filtered in, I questioned whether I had pushed too hard, too fast. When I launched the demo, the room fell silent. The application anticipated user needs, reorganized itself based on work patterns, and presented a completely unique experience tailored to the test profile I had created. No 2 users would ever have the same interface, because the app would mold itself around their specific behaviors. Thomas jumped to his feet before I even finished. "This is it," he declared, looking around at the others. "This is our future. All resources pivot to Grover's application." Within weeks, I had a dedicated development team working under my direction. Early user testing produced unprecedented feedback scores. Investors who had been hesitant about JumpSphere suddenly could not write checks fast enough once they saw the prototype in action. I threw myself completely into the project. My relationship with Sophia became strained, though she tried to understand. "This is your baby," she would say as I missed another dinner. She was right. The code felt like a living entity I was nurturing into existence. We added features that our competitors could not possibly replicate without years of catching up. The night before launch, Thomas held a small team celebration at a rooftop bar downtown. He clinked glasses with me as the sunset painted the sky orange behind him. "Grover, my friend, this will make us both rich," he said with that infectious confidence. "You have built something extraordinary here." I believed him. I believed in all of it. The launch exceeded even our most optimistic projections. Servers crashed within the first hour as downloads overwhelmed our capacity. Tech blogs and mainstream media alike praised the innovative approach, with Business Insider calling it the first genuinely intelligent productivity tool. Revenue climbed exponentially, 5 million in the first month, 15 in the second, 40 in the third. User growth followed a similar curve with retention rates that made industry analysts do double takes. My first personal celebration was modest. I bought my parents a new car to replace their 15-year-old sedan. Mom cried when I handed her the keys, and Dad tried to refuse until I showed him a small fraction of the revenue numbers. "You deserve this," I told them. "You supported my computer obsession when everyone said I should focus on more practical skills." The first sign of trouble came during an executive meeting in month 4. Franklin displayed a slide showing equity distribution in preparation for our next funding round. "Grover, we need to discuss your percentage," he said casually. "For the company valuation to make sense to new investors, we should restructure some of these allocations." Thomas jumped in before I could respond. "We can discuss that privately, Franklin," he said smoothly. "Let us stay focused on growth." I noticed other subtle shifts after that meeting. Thomas began giving press interviews about our revolutionary app without mentioning my role in creating it. New marketing materials referred to JumpSphere's breakthrough technology rather than naming any specific creator. The company expanded rapidly, moving to luxury office space downtown and hiring dozens of new employees each month. My role gradually shifted from innovation to maintenance. When I proposed new features or improvements, I was told to focus on stability and scalability instead. Jasmine pulled me aside after one product meeting her usual confidence, replaced with worry. "Something strange is happening, Grover," she whispered. "I overheard Thomas and Franklin in the break room yesterday. They stopped talking when they saw me, but they were discussing how to handle your contract." I dismissed her concerns initially. The app was my creation. The company's sudden success rested entirely on my code. Surely they understood that. Then came the accidental email thread. Someone had mistakenly included me in a chain between Thomas Franklin and Alexander with the subject line, "Grover situation." I read with growing disbelief as they discussed dependency reduction and knowledge transfer strategies to minimize disruption when we make changes. The next day, I attended our revenue milestone celebration. We had hit $100 million. Champagne flowed freely, but I found myself seated at a table far from the executives. Thomas gave a speech praising our amazing team without singling anyone out. Team members who had previously reported directly to me were suddenly redirected to Alexander. My access to certain code repositories was restricted for security protocol updates. Late one evening, as I worked alone in the office, Alexander approached my desk with an uncharacteristic hesitancy. "Grover," he said quietly, "you are brilliant, but sometimes brilliance is not enough in this business. If I were you, I would take steps to protect yourself." He left without further explanation. But the warning was clear. That night I researched intellectual property rights and contract loopholes until dawn. My employment agreement had several concerning clauses about work for hire and company ownership that suddenly seemed more ominous than standard. That was when I decided to implement the kill switch. It felt extreme, even paranoid, but something deep in my gut told me I needed insurance. Over several sleepless nights, I built a sophisticated mechanism into the core application architecture. If activated, it would not crash the app or delete data. That would be too obvious and potentially illegal. Instead, it would introduce subtle degradations to the user experience that would gradually intensify until addressed. I tested it on a private server, confirming its functionality while ensuring it could not be accidentally triggered. Then I buried it so deeply in the code that even a thorough audit would not discover its existence. The activation was tied to my personal authentication protocol that only I could initiate. The ethical implications troubled me. Users would be impacted by my protective measure, but I rationalized that if I never needed to use it, no harm would come. It was just insurance. Protection against a scenario I still hoped would never materialize. The scenario materialized on a Monday morning. My calendar showed a routine check-in with Thomas, but when I arrived at the conference room, Franklin was there, along with a woman from HR I had only seen during onboarding. "Grover, thanks for coming," Thomas said, with a practiced smile that did not reach his eyes. "We wanted to discuss some performance concerns." Franklin launched into a presentation of cherry-picked metrics, suggesting the application had stability issues and scalability concerns. Graphs showed out-of-context error rates and customer service tickets that had been resolved weeks ago. I tried to defend my work, pointing out the manipulation of the data, but Thomas raised his hand to stop me. "The reality is, Grover, the company is moving in a different direction. We need different skill sets at this stage of growth. The pioneering phase is over. Now we need steady hands to scale what you built." The HR representative slid a document across the table. "This outlines your severance package. 2 weeks of pay, which is generous considering the circumstances. 2 weeks. For creating a product generating $200 million in revenue." The document included a non-disclosure agreement with punitive clauses if breached. They wanted my signature immediately. "We will need your laptop and access card," the HR woman said. "Security will escort you to collect any personal items from your desk." Walking through the open office with a security guard at my side was the most humiliating experience of my professional life. Colleagues looked up from their desks with confusion or quickly averted their eyes. My desk was emptied into a cardboard box while I stood there still processing what had happened. As I was led to the elevator, I saw Jasmine watching from the break room, her expression a mix of shock and sympathy. My phone buzzed with a text from her as I reached the lobby. "They have been planning this for months. I am so sorry." I sat in my apartment for hours that evening, staring at the wall. Sophia came over after my brief shell-shocked phone call. She held me while the reality sank in. "You gave them everything," she said, anger creeping into her voice. "Your time, your health, your brilliance. And they threw you away like nothing." My phone filled with confused messages from team members asking what had happened. Several mentioned they had been instructed not to contact me, but wanted to understand the sudden departure. No one in leadership had provided an explanation. When I requested the return of personal items left at my desk, the HR department claimed everything had already been discarded. My collection of development books, family photos, even the custom mechanical keyboard Sophia had given me for my birthday, all gone. The next morning, Thomas posted a LinkedIn update announcing an exciting new direction for the app, with a roadmap that contained several features I had proposed and been told to shelve. The post made no mention of recent personnel changes. An anonymous email arrived from someone still at the company. It contained screenshots of a champagne toast in the executive boardroom after my departure. Messages between leadership members mocked my naive trust and inflated sense of importance. Sleep became impossible as I reviewed my contract each night, looking for leverage. I consulted with a lawyer who explained that while ethically reprehensible, the company had protected itself legally. Fighting them would be extremely difficult and prohibitively expensive. Meanwhile, the company was systematically erasing me from the app's history. Press releases were rewritten to attribute the development to JumpSphere's innovative engineering team. My name disappeared from the About section of the website. When I applied for positions at other companies, I received polite rejections. One hiring manager confided off the record, "We received some concerning feedback about your departure from JumpSphere. Nothing specific, just suggestions that there were performance issues." They were blackballing me in the industry. A tech publication released a feature article praising Thomas as the sole visionary behind the app, including quotes about how he had conceived and directed the development from day one. The article speculated that the app could generate over $1 billion within the next year. I had built a revolutionary product that was making millions daily, yet I sat in my apartment, unable to find work, my reputation secretly undermined watching others take credit for my creation. Everything changed when an email arrived from an anonymous JumpSphere employee using a secure Proton Mail account. The subject line read simply, "You deserve to know the truth." Attached were dozens of confidential documents that painted a clear picture of calculated betrayal. The most significant was a presentation about a planned acquisition by tech giant TechCore. JumpSphere was being purchased for $800 million, with the possibility of additional performance bonuses pushing the deal over $1 billion. The slide deck included a specific section titled Founder Risk Mitigation with my photo and a timeline for my managed exit prior to acquisition talks becoming public. They had fired me to avoid paying my share of the acquisition. An email thread between Thomas and Franklin discussed exact figures. If we keep Grover through acquisition, his equity would be worth approximately $47 million. If we terminate prior legal believes, we can settle for under $200,000 if he pushes back. Net savings $46.8 million. There were legal documents showing how they had deliberately structured my contract to create termination loopholes. Financial projections revealed they expected the app to be valued at several billion within 2 years. Most painful was evidence that Alexander, who I had considered a mentor, had helped design the plan to push me out. He had suggested the performance issues narrative they eventually used. Perhaps most telling was an email from Thomas explicitly stating Grover is a liability to the acquisition. TechCore wants a clean asset without complicated creator relationships. The documents revealed everyone else had received massive equity packages, everyone except me. Another email appeared from Jasmine. Her resignation letter to the company cited ethical concerns regarding treatment of the original developer as her reason for leaving. She had walked away from considerable stock options on principle. A draft press release from TechCore announcing the acquisition made no mention of the original creator. Franklin's spreadsheet calculated to the dollar how much they would save by firing me before the acquisition. I lost control that night. I threw my industry award plaques against the wall, watching the glass shatter. I screamed until my voice gave out. Then, sitting amid the debris of my broken achievements, clarity came. I had played by the rules. I had been ethical, loyal, and dedicated. And they had exploited those qualities to rob me of what was rightfully mine. I called Sophia and asked her to come over. I spread the documents across the coffee table and explained what I had discovered. "You need to fight back," she said, though concern clouded her face. "But whatever you do, make sure it cannot hurt you further." The acquisition announcement was scheduled for the following week. A notice to employees marked confidential outline celebration plans and talking points for the media. I forwarded the complete evidence package to my lawyer, who confirmed what I already suspected: my legal options were limited by the contracts I had signed, and fighting would take years with uncertain outcomes. I contemplated going public as a whistleblower, but without clear illegality, I would likely be dismissed as a disgruntled ex-employee. Worse, I could be sued for violating the non-disclosure agreement. I spent one final sleepless night weighing all options and consequences. As dawn broke, I realized the leverage I needed had been there all along, hidden in the code itself. The kill switch was not just insurance, it was justice. I spent the day methodically preparing. I documented all evidence and secured multiple backups in different locations. I crafted a precise, legally reviewed demand letter with my lawyer's guidance. I recorded a video explanation of events with supporting evidence that could be released if they tried to retaliate. The day before the scheduled acquisition announcement, I sat in my apartment, took a deep breath, and activated the kill switch. The effects were subtle at first. Users reported minor lags in the application response time. The predictive features became slightly less accurate. Custom layouts began reverting to defaults. A system message appeared for all users: scheduled maintenance underway. Optimal performance will resume shortly. Chaos erupted at JumpSphere headquarters as support tickets flooded in. The engineering team frantically searched for the cause, but found nothing obvious in the code. The subtle degradations could have been server issues, database problems, or a dozen other common technical glitches. An emergency board meeting was called as their stock price began to slip. Thomas called me 17 times. I let each one go to voicemail. On the 18th call, I answered. "What the hell is happening, Grover?" he demanded, panic evident in his voice. "I believe you received my lawyer's letter," I replied calmly. The demand was simple proper attribution as the creator of the app, fair compensation reflecting my contribution, and a public apology for my treatment. "You cannot do this," Thomas hissed. "We will sue you into oblivion. For what I have not damaged or deleted anything, there is just some unexpected maintenance required. Maintenance only I know how to perform." His threats escalated, but we both knew time was against them. As the hours passed, the app's functionality continued to degrade. Core features became increasingly inaccessible. The TechCore executives demanded a resolution before proceeding with the acquisition. Media outlets began questioning the sudden performance issues of the previously flawless application. Investors grew nervous. A second emergency board meeting resulted in a vote to negotiate with me. Less than 24 hours after activating the kill switch, I sat across from the entire executive team in my lawyer's office. Thomas was forced to apologize and acknowledge my role as the primary creator. The new agreement granted me appropriate compensation and creator recognition. Most importantly, it secured my position in the acquisition with TechCore, who actually seemed relieved to have the original developer involved. Once the documents were signed, I deactivated the kill switch, restoring full functionality to the app. The press release the following day acknowledged me as the primary creator and announced my new role in the acquisition. 1 year later, I hold a senior position at TechCore, leading the continued development of my application. Our user base has tripled, and revenue has exceeded all projections. I have established a healthy relationship with TechCore leadership built on mutual respect and clear recognition of contributions. Most of the original JumpSphere team now works with me, including Jasmine, who leads our expanded design department. We have reconciled with team members who never knew the full story of what happened. TechCore approved my proposal for an innovation lab under my direction, where we develop new features and explore next-generation ideas without corporate constraints. The experience taught me invaluable lessons about business relationships and self-protection. Documentation and explicit attribution of intellectual contributions are now standard practice in my team. I approach contracts and business arrangements with far more scrutiny. Sophia and I emerged stronger from the ordeal. She helped me maintain perspective when bitterness threatened to consume me. In an unexpected twist, I recently had lunch with Thomas, who has launched a new startup. He admitted learning difficult lessons from our conflict. "I sacrificed integrity for profit," he said, "and ultimately lost both." I have even developed an unlikely friendship with Franklin, who later faced a similar betrayal at his next company. We occasionally meet for coffee and laugh at the irony. The tech industry celebrates innovation but often neglects the innovators. My story is not unique, but my ability to reclaim what was mine set a precedent. Now I mentor young developers, teaching them to protect their contributions while remaining collaborative. The experience changed me fundamentally. I still believe in creating revolutionary technology, but I understand that ownership and recognition must be guarded as carefully as the code itself. Have you ever faced a situation where you had to stand up for yourself when others tried to take credit for your work? Share your experience in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life tech industry stories. Thank you for listening, and remember, your creations deserve protection, and so do you.